Hello and welcome to the Geeks Review. I'm Royce.
And I'm Joshua.
Later on today, I'll be reviewing the new movie Snake Eyes, a G.I. Joe movie. But first up, Josh and I will be talking about the first two live-action G.I. Joe films, The Rise of Cobra, released in 2009, and Retaliation, released in 2013. But before we get into that, what is G.I. Joe? G.I. Joe began as a toy line back in the 1960s. A range of 12-inch articulated dolls or action figures, they represented every arm of the US military. The line was revamped for the 1980s, and it's here with the smaller plastic figures that the line really became what it's known to be today. With colourful characters whose stories were told in the pages of comic books and episodes of the cartoon series, G.I. Joe cemented itself in pop culture as an icon of the 1980s. Across many reboots and revamps, the series got its first live-action film in 2009 with The Rise of Cobra, starring Channing Tatum, Marlon Wayans. Who else is in this film? Lots of people.
Joseph Love Hewitt.
Joseph Gordon.
Gordon Love Hewitt. Thank you.
Not Jennifer Love. Yeah, I can't even remember her name.
Jonathan Pryce.
Jonathan Pryce. Arnold Vosloo from The Mummy. This is actually directed by Stephen Sommers, the director of the first two Mummy films.
Brief cameo of Brendan Fraser as the unknown Joe.
I believe he does have a name, Stone, I think is his name.
I always thought it was Flint.
Then we saw
Stone and Flint. You know?
Yeah, and then Retaliation came out and I went, oh, okay, so Brendan Fraser wasn't Flint.
If you didn't know about G.I. Joe, now you know. And knowing is half the battle. What did you think?
I had no horse in this race. I remember watching Rise of Cobra. I was still a bit younger, but not older than that young. Probably just under a decade ago. I saw these two films. Not back to back, but like I did last night. But I remember watching the first one. I thought, yeah, it's alright. It's passable. And then I barely remembered anything from Retaliation, but going back and watching this, I realised a certain theme with these Hasbro films. They're very Bay-esque, even if Bay's not in charge.
Yeah, because obviously 2007 saw the release of Transformers by Michael Bay, who was at the time best known for like Bad Boys and The Rock and all that sort of stuff.
Pearl Harbor.
And going into this, we begin in 17th century France in the first one, and it's like, oh no, this is very Transformers.
Yeah, we're jumping that shark way before Transformers 4 did it.
Yeah, because they do whole, like, historical sort of, Transformers have always been here, and this starts with, like, a whole Man in the Iron Mask kind of thing, which ties into...
Clan McCullen selling weapons to the French and their enemies.
Played by Christopher Eccleston.
That was the descendant.
The descendant of this Man in the Iron Mask is the character Destro. Yeah, we're introduced to this guy, this businessman. He's a weapons manufacturer, and he's developed this nanotech weapon which obliterates metal.
And it goes for anything.
Yeah, okay, true that. And as it's being transported, yeah, it's very self-serious. It's sort of thinking, like, this is going to be very gritty. This is going to be Michael Bay.
Yeah. It's not as colourful as we know it to be, or as the Robot Chicken sketches have led us to believe.
Yeah, to be honest, my knowledge of G.I. Joe basically goes as far as the Robot Chicken sketches.
Personally, the favourite is Fumbles.
Ah, yes. Yeah, he's the Joe who fails and defects to Cobra.
Yeah, well, he's like the highly talented sniper with the PhD, and they call him Fumbles because he spills a drink and slips over.
Yeah.
So he defects to Cobra, and he gets called Trouser Snake, and goes on to eliminate all but Duke of the actual Joe roster.
Basically, the film gets as silly as that does. Well, as soon as the Joes show up and you see, like, Scarlet comes out with a crossbow and is, like, tracking bolts, and Snake Eyes is there, and it's like...
Oh, man, that rubber suit does not age.
Sort of creepy rubber lips, has been remarked upon.
Yep.
But going into the sequel, to be honest, it felt a bit weird to see him without a face or anything like that.
It actually felt a little bit better.
It is better, but it just stood out to me as, like, that's weird because I've got used to the lips.
Yeah, you get used to it in the end.
Played by Ray Park, a Scottish martial artist and stuntman, best known for playing Darth Maul. He's not in this movie as much as I thought he was.
No.
I mean, it's kind of an ensemble piece, and you're juggling, like, about 10 other characters.
They really did limit the roster, because the G.I. Joe roster is massive, even including a wrestler in the form of Sergeant Slaughter.
Yes, that's right. There's a lot of characters, but I think it did juggle them all well enough.
Well enough, with the main cast, Duke, Ripcord, Scarlet, Heavy Duty, and Snake Eyes and Breaker. So
Yeah.
we got 6 main Joes.
And then, I mean, you got the Professor, who's revealed to be Cobra Commander,
Yeah.
played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Very unknown until you get the flashback.
Yeah, you don't recognise him at all.
No.
Because at the time, this was before Inception, this was before The Dark Knight Rises, but even so, Joseph Gordon-Levitt was known thanks to, a role in the sitcom Third Rock from the Sun.
Yes.
As well as a bunch of other movies. So seeing him here playing such a character, and such a weird character, is like...
such a weird way as well.
You very rarely see high-profile actors doing that kind of thing. It's usually just them, it's all ego, it's,
Yeah.
even if they're under makeup, it's sort of unmistakably then, sort of like with Ryan Reynolds. This is him playing a character.
Yes, playing very much a character, and his straight man is Christopher Eccleston.
Who apparently hated the film, who seems to hate everything he's in, or have negative experiences with
That's
everything.
just natural.
But he's great.
He does ham it up a bit.
Yeah.
Granted, he doesn't ham it up as much as some of the other guys, like, what is her name? She was the Baroness. Sienna Miller.
Just the scene where he's talking and he's like, calm yourself, Storm Shadow, and he just says that with a straight face, and you're like, wow, okay, well, that's the film we're into now. Yep, Sienna Miller playing the Baroness.
Yes.
Who, I sort of, again, this was such a weird film going into, because I didn't know if this was going to be really tacky, if this was going to be kind of weird. When she shows up, it's sort of a weird introduction. I thought, are they going to do like this weird sort of sexual thing with her? But no, she's pretty, from what I can tell, at least in the vein of who the character was.
A femme fatale.
I did enjoy this film, I will say.
It grows on you, which is actually kind of strange. You can tell who's having fun and who isn't.
Yeah.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt Hewitt clearly is having a ball here. The same with Marlon Wayne as Ripcord, and Arnold Veloso as Zarton, the Master of the Skies. You can tell these guys are really giving it their all.
The director, Stephen Sommers, also did The Mummy.
Yeah.
That itself is considered to be a cult classic to this day. I kind of feel like this in time will be seen as such.
Yeah.
Because it does have that personality, it does have a sense of fun.
It does.
Which I think a lot of films are sort of lacking.
There is chemistry. And oddly enough, with films like this, you don't usually get chemistry like that.
Yeah. It is surprising. I mean... Yeah, G.I. Joe, and in the wake of Transformers, something that's sort of so... It's serious within the context, but when you've gone and got Storm Shadow as this guy in his all-white suit running through Paris with, like, a rocket launcher with, like, green goo, and he's, like, super serious.
Yes, everyone's taking it seriously.
Yeah, but it's good that way. And
yeah.
I sort of think I'd return to it because it starts off so troubling and then sort of gets a bit serious, and then the Joes show up. And
a cliche military film, and then when the Joes actually turn up, it's like, oh.
Dennis Quaid is in this.
Yes.
And he's... yeah, he does the whole, knowing is half the battle line. Very slick. Apparently it's set in the year 2020. Said to be set in a not-too-distant future. That's the little subtitle that pops up at the beginning.
Oh, boy.
Yes.
Oh.
I remember he was actually saying, the director, a lot of the technology that they've envisaged within the film could potentially become reality within the next 10 to 20 years. Okay.
Where's my damn nanobots?
Yeah, where's the mind reader of the dead person?
Yeah.
That was a bit gruesome.
That was, actually. And then, I'm just going to call it the information denial of actually disintegrating the body from within. It's just, ooh. And this is meant to be a kid's film.
There's the big car chase.
But...
Big car chase through Paris, and Scarlett shoots a guy in the head with an explosive crossbow bolt, and his head is missing when he falls out the car.
Yeah.
It happens like flash, split second, but, it's...
That dude got no head no more.
Yeah. Yeah. Going into the second one, though, it's a very different story.
That is a very different film, and it does really change it up a bit, and it changes up the cast, unfortunately.
Yeah, we got the addition of Dwayne Johnson playing Roadblock.
Yes.
Who, you read about the character, and it goes, he's one of the most, forefront G.I. Joe members. He's African-American. He's played by The Rock.
Yep.
He's Polynesian. Yeah, so it's kind of like, oh, okay.
Well, they already had their African Americans, or sorry, African English fella with heavy duty in the previous film.
Yes, I'm not going to try to pronounce his name, but he's it's a lot more serious, this film.
It is.
It's a lot more sort of plain clothes, they're just sort of dressed more generic military.
They've just got slightly better tech.
Yeah. Most of them are all killed off at the beginning.
Yeah, they got rid of all the ones you invested your time in, and really the only person who comes back from the original film is Channing Tatum as a Duke.
Yeah, who apparently all of the other ones, there's nothing said about them.
No,
like either they're busy or they're killed in action.
nothing.
And I did read apparently that Channing Tatum, in the first one, that was before he became, the
Famous.
star he is today. So it was apparently sort of like a contractual obligation.
Yes.
The first one, and I guess they sort of brought him back because it's like, we got to have some connective tissue. So you get killed off in the first minute. It's like, a few days of work.
Whatever, you get paid.
Yeah. Speaking of, getting paid for little work, Bruce Willis.
General Joe Colton, yeah.
Yeah, the namesake of the G.I. Joes, who shows up and he's lifeless as ever.
Yeah.
As he has become.
It was a bit of an energy to him, but it just quickly ebbed away.
It's strange he's got this weird sort of hostility with Lady J.
Yeah.
Played by Adrian Palicki. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
What are all his names?
Adrian Palicki, DJ Corona as Flint, Ed Leong as Jinx.
Elodie Long, yeah, she plays Elektra, doesn't she, in the Marvel Daredevil series, yeah.
Knew she looked familiar.
She looked like Janine Gravanka, Iden Versio. So I was like watching it
Yes.
first going like, is that her? No, it's not.
No.
Oh, well. But she shows up in a lot of stuff.
She does. And not many people here having fun other than Ray Stevenson.
Yeah, apparently his character Firefly, he's a character from the comics, from the action figures, and he actually went out of his way to get the mask made for the character, which he barely wears, but he wears at least a little bit.
He wears a bit.
To sort of represent the character more accurately, which is something I appreciate. It's just a shame he doesn't wear it all the time.
He looks like he's having a ball.
Yeah.
Where even that stupid southern accent. I know nothing about these guys, but I just cannot see Firefly without him now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they do future films with these characters, how they...
Even Jonathan Pryce looks like he's having fun in this one.
He does. I will say they do have like a double effect because, you're introduced to Zartan, the shapeshifter, the Master of Disguise.
Yes.
Who sort of does the Agent 47 thing for the first part of the first film, where he just dresses up in different costumes and he
kills a
blends
guy,
in.
grabs his clothes,
and then he gets
for he's a jolly good fella and wanders off.
Yeah, whereas they inject him with like this thing, nanotechnology, which allows him to properly change his face, and he turns himself into Jonathan Pryce, who in this is playing United States president.
Yes.
So he disguises himself as the president, and they're keeping the real president as a prisoner, and they do have a scene where two Jonathan Pryces are on shot at once.
They have a couple of those, but yes.
They do. It's quite well done for 2013.
It is.
Like, I was looking for like the lines, because back in the day, like with Back to the Future Part 2, they have to do like the split screen sort of thing where Christopher Lloyd like puts his hand behind a lamppost to pass something to Christopher Lloyd. And it's like very obviously not his hand. But it's like, only if you look really close. But this is like, they walk in front of each other, they walk around, and they're standing in the same shot.
There is also less of an overabundance of CGI in this one as well, compared to the first.
Yeah, it's a lot more grounded. In the vehicles, like, they're all very real, but they're sort of like really...
Other than the hiss.
It's very dialed back to sort of... There's pros and cons to that.
Yeah.
Did you think it was a better film than the first? Because
it's a very interesting question. It's got a more diverse cast, but it also reduces how many we're dealing with, and the plot itself
is complicated.
It's very stagnant as well. Granted, the stakes are a lot higher once they reveal what the Zeus weapon is.
Yeah, which is apparently based upon a theoretical concept of dropping projectiles from orbit and devastating.
Well, I mean, we saw the
Massive,
damage that a
yeah.
meteorite could do billions of years ago.
Yeah, true. Yeah. In regards to costumes, very quickly, the G.I. Joes themselves are very bland, but Cobra, they're really sort of pulling out all the stops. I mean, Cobra Commander shows up. It's not played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt anymore. But they do have a very brief shot of him, in like the burnt face makeup, very similar to what Joseph Gordon-Levitt had. And they get him into the proper, mirror-faced costume that Cobra Commander is known for.
And then complete with hissing, and he only sees in a window of the Cobra organization symbol.
Yeah. It's a really cool costume.
It
I'll
is.
say that much.
Clearly where the costuming budget went.
Yeah, with Destro, who is like this metal-faced character who's introduced, in the first one, played by Christopher Eccleston.
Who doesn't even become a metal-faced man until the end of the film.
It's very strange, the ending of that first film, though, where it's like Cobra Commander injects him and he turns metal-faced, and then Cobra Commander pulls on his own mask and it looks nothing like a Cobra Commander mask we've seen before. He announces he's the commander and then he immediately gets arrested.
Hooray! And then we get, in this one, a brief synopsis of the Nanomite War, which honestly would have been a much better sequel.
Yeah.
Or mini-series.
It was kind of a strange opening that felt a bit stilted, hey? Like, you're sort of catching up on, I guess, a Japanese video game or something. It's like Metal Gear. It's kind of like this.
Very Metal Gear in places for this. And what makes it even weirder, they make it sound like they didn't capture him in the first one.
Well, I mean, maybe there's theories that he got out and stuff happened.
What, did Zartan go in there with a thing of wicker baskets and cobras and broke him out?
Imagine if they did that in these films, eh? If they sort of took that approach. I think they could make it work.
They were really... I know it's Cobra. They really do hammer home all our shit is named after snakes.
Well,
You've got the Neo Vipers in the first one, and then you've got the high-speed intercepting scout surface whatever.
Yeah.
Or hiss. It's just like, okay, we get it. You love snakes. And then the Blind Master, played by RZA.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is the one thing I actually have trouble with this film is RZA as the Blind Master. I don't know why.
Yeah, I was watching it and I was saying, who is that? Oh my god, it's him. I thought the stuff between Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes in this film was really good.
Pity we get most of it done. It feels like it takes up most of the film, but it's not.
Yeah, what did you think about that whole cliffside, fight scene?
It was great until I realised where the green screen began and ended.
It was something which sort of started off, I thought, quite high stakes, where they're going down zip lines and you see all the bad ninjas who are chasing them, fall off, and some of them keep going. But then it was sort of like just swinging back and forwards. I'm like, oh, okay, we're just doing this for a bit now. And I looked into that and it took like 2 months to film. And it's like, wow, okay, that's a lot of work for something which very quickly wore thin with me. But, it's a weird blend, that one, of like super serious and more campiness. And yeah, apparently they're going to be doing a sequel and Dwayne Johnson's going to be returning as Roadblock for the future film. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
I mean, when are we going to get Shipwreck?
Who's that character? What's his deal?
See, I blame Robot Chicken for all my knowledge. He's just, from what I can tell, he's a fella in a sailor hat. He's going to be like Navy representative, and he's got a parrot. Is it Shipwreck or Shipwright?
One of them.
But the one character I regret that we never got to see was Fumbles.
True.
From the Robot Chicken. Dr. Fumbles. Dr. Fumbles.
They should totally do that, actually. Just have like him there as a cameo in any future film. That would be appreciated.
What happened to that sniper dude? The one with the PhD? Oh, Fumbles? I don't know.
He defected. And then you just have this Cobra sniper who's like just exceptionally good. Kill off some of the...
Cobra's just got this latest really good, insanely great sniper. What's his code name? Trouser Snake.
Speaking of snakes,
Yes.
Metal Gear. No. Snake Eyes is the new film that's out in cinemas now. Stars Henry Golding from Crazy Rich Asians and The Gentleman. And this film is an origin story where we see where Snake Eyes came from. And it's curious because we kind of get this in these two films we've just talked about.
Yeah.
And we get, again, different story. It begins and it says like 20 years ago. And you're like, oh, yes, the 1980s. No, that's 2000. That's 2001. It's like, oh, okay. That's a bit weird. So young Snake Eyes, whose name you never find out, he sees his dad get killed and swears revenge. And he's approached by this gangster guy who says, you know, we can find the man who killed your father if you work for me, if you do this thing for me. Cut to 4 weeks later, he's now in LA. He's, you know, working for the Yakuza. And he saves the life of this guy, this gangster, Tommy, who turns into Storm Shadow. And Tommy basically says, you know, you are honorable, you protected me, come with me to Tokyo, I'm going to train you to be a ninja and protect my family to give you purpose. Yeah, there's a bit of magic in this one, and it's sort of like, okay, that comes out of nowhere because the rest of this is quite serious and sort of, yeah. It's very grounded, and I was on board with this film until I kind of realised, oh, this entire film is just going to be all in Tokyo. It's all just going to be Snake Eyes learning, and pretty much it, you know. They have a few sword fights. Choreography, I guess, is all right, but the direction is very shaky cam. Trying to sort of keep track of it all is a workout in itself.
So it's like Marvel films.
Choppier than even that, yeah.
Wow.
It's very colourful, though, very pretty, a lot of this.
Of course it is.
Like, there's this neon-lit rain fight scene. Looks fantastic. And all these forest scenes, which, you know, watching the Mortal Kombat film a few months ago.
Yes.
There was, you know, quite a cool opening scene there in the forest.
With the Lin Kuei attacking the Shira Ryu.
Yeah, and I kind of wish there was more of that, and you get a lot of forest scenes of that same sort of aesthetic and colour palette here. It's just really cool to look at. And in this temple, it's like the walls are mirrored and there's like all these lanterns hanging up, so it's just like rows and rows of like these lanterns, and it's just lit in gold and it's beautiful. Everyone's really good in this, but it's just sort of, yeah, it's not G.I. Joe.
It sounds more like Batman Begins.
Yeah, it's spoilers. He doesn't get the suit until the very end. You know, there's the shot in the trailer where he suits up, and that's like the second last shot in the film before he rides off on his motorcycle. About halfway through, after they have this fight and they find out that the bad guys, you know, being funded by Cobra, they call the Joes, who already exist within this universe, and we get the introduction of Scarlet, played by Samara Weaving, and it's just suddenly like, oh, you know, forget about the serious ninja stuff we've been dealing with before. G.I. Joe, holograms, and Cobra and terrorists and all that stuff.
Joe.
It's like, yeah, pretty much. And it's just, it's out of nowhere. It's like whiplash. This just tonal whiplash of like, well, okay, now we're in a kid's film.
Yeah, now we'll pull out the stuff where we'll say, buy it. Buy our stuff.
Yeah, and then Baroness shows up, and she's very, like, again, sort of true to form. Scarlet shows up, looks great fight scenes at the end. There's actually this really fun fight scene in the docks. I don't know, there's just something about like the sort of the kung fu movies where you've got like a bunch of, you know, guys against one person. Like you see it in the Jackie Chan films, and everyone's just moving and frenetic and high energy, and
yeah,
like you slap one and they're just like all flying over the place, and it's a mess of limbs. So you get a lot of fight scenes like that. And if you like that kind of fight style, it's pretty cool. The camera does calm down a bit and lets you sort of take in what you're seeing. Giant snakes. There's giant snakes in this movie because it's like, oh yeah, snake, cobra. Let's have some giant snakes that you descend into the pit of, and they will judge your soul whether you're pure or not. And you've got some very realistic computer-generated snakes, and they're massive and they are filled with jump scares. So if you don't like snakes, maybe skip this one on the big screen.
It's in the title, Snake Eyes.
Well, they establish it's the dice, the roll of the dice, you know, the 2 ones, which is where he gets his name from. There's a bad guy in this. I swear it was Fisher Stevens. You know, the actor from Hackers, and he played the Indian guy in Short Circuit films. You ever see?
Yes.
Yeah, he's still around, that guy.
Oh, holy crap.
but it's not him, but it looks like him, sounds like him, and I'm like, is that not him? It's not. But I really liked that until I found out it wasn't him.
Oh.
But yeah, Snake Eyes, it's basically, if you want another reiteration of like Casino Royale, except, you know, it's Snake Eyes and he doesn't officially own the title until the end. If you want Batman Begins but thought it should have ended after he suited up for the first time, this is the film for you. It's a long 2 hours of...
Honestly makes me want to go back and watch the other two again.
Yeah, to be honest. I mean, Henry Golding's great. Everyone's great in this. Like, the guy who plays Tommy is just... He's not chewing the scenery, but he's like, this is the most serious film ever. And I'm going to act like this is the most serious film. Like, my family's livelihood is on the line here, and I'm genuinely distraught about this. But yeah, it's a weird one.
Ouch.
And it's kind of what I feared what the other films would be. A bit too self-serious. And, I mean, I'd love to see Henry Golding and Samara Weaving return as Snake Eyes and Scarlet and do more, but who knows if this is going to be, you know, the straw that broke the...
Camel's back, yeah.
But yeah.
Well, you know that Hasbro doesn't measure success in movie sales, but in toy sales.
Well, they got me. I already bought the action figures.
You lose!
Yeah, but it's so sneaky. They've gone and sold all these action figures for characters who barely appear in the film like that. At least they give you the Henry Golding head sculpt, so you can be accurate at least. But yeah, G.I. Joe. That was the topic of discussion today, and we talked about Snake Eyes and the first two films, and gave a bit of a rundown of the history of these films and series. Anyway, this has been the Geeks Review. I'm Royce.
I'm Joshua.
And we'll see you next time. Bye for now.